Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we're going to see if the best gym leader / Elite 4 member Larry has a broken or a bad team. Without further ado, let's get into it. I start off with my Staraptor, he starts off with his Talonflame. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp, gives me a burn, but I still am able to take him out with the crit double edge. He then goes into his Magnezone, I go into my Oricorio for the electric move. He then switches into a Shandy Shot, goes for another Volt Switch, takes me out and then pivots into his Scissor. I then use this opportunity to go into my Braviary, go for the Choice Banded Brave Bird, take out the Scissor. I take a little recoil damage, and then he goes back into his Sandy Shocks. I then switch into my Altaria for the incoming electric move and eat that right up. I get my lefties back, and then he switches into his Toedsquirrel. I use this to go for the Flamethrower, super effective but barely any damage. He gets his lefties back. I then switch into my Tropius, predicting the Spore, which I get correct, allowing me to switch in for free. He gets some lefties back, and decides to go for the knockoff, knocking off my Lychee Berry. I go for the Substitute, and get behind my Beanbag. He then goes for the Rapid Spin, gets a speed boost but is unable to break my sub. I use that to go for the Dragon Dance, get my boost. He gets a little bit of lefties back, goes for another Rapid Spin, gets another boost, this time breaks my sub. I'm still dancing over here, he gets some lefties back. He then goes for the knockoff again, I go for the Leaf Blade, take out the Toedsquirrel. He then goes into the Magnezone, but my Banana Dinosaur packs the Earthquake, one-shots him too. My opponent then leaves. Good game. At this time, I ask you guys to please like, comment, share, and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. And without further ado, let's get into game 2. I start off with my Tropius and he starts off with the Palma. He goes right for the Fire Punch, that's a huge chunk. Activates my Lychee Berry, but now I can't go for a sub. He then goes for the Ice Punch, takes out my Tropius. I then switch into my Scarf Flamingo, go punch him in the face a couple times, take out the Palmot. He then switches into his Floatzel. I go for another close combat, punch him in the face, take him out as well. That's 2 kills for the Flamingo. He goes into his Ghostly Teapot. I use this to switch into my Altaria. He starts smashing some shells over there, gets his boost, eats his White Herb. He then goes for a Stored Power, does a big chunk to my Altaria. I go for the Dragon Pulse, do barely anything, gets some lefties, goes for another Stored Power, takes out my Altaria. I then switch back into my Flamingo, go for the Brave Bird, take out the Teapot. He then switches into his Haxorus. I go for the Terra Flying, trying to maximize my damage, but I actually end up resisting the first impression. Go for the Brave Bird, do a huge chunk to the Haxorus, but is able to hang on. He then switches into his Tinkatongue. I go for another Brave Bird, trying to take out the Haxorus, but I take myself down to the recoil. I then switch into my Staraptor. I go for the Banded Double Edge, do a huge chunk even with the resisted hit. He goes for the Gigaton Hammer, I'm just able to hang on. He then switches into his Hippowdon, gets the sand going. I go for another double edge, do a huge chunk to the Hippo, but I end up taking myself out with the recoil. I then go into my Oricorio, start dancing right in front of his face. He doesn't like that, decides to slack off right in front of me, gets a huge chunk back. Takes some sand damage, he gets his lefties. I then go for the Air Slash, do a huge chunk to him. He whisks the Stone Edge, take a little bit more sand, some more lefties, and then I go for a Terra Blast just for the 100% accuracy, take out the Hippo. He then goes back into his Haxorus, goes for the first impression, my Oricorio is able to hang on, but he takes himself out with some recoil. The sand goes away, and then he goes into his last mon, the Tinkatongue. Goes for the Fake Out, does a little bit, Oricorio is able to hang on. I flinch, he gets some lefties, then he goes in for the Terra Fairy, still not enough, able to take him out with the Revelation Dance. Good game. And now let's get into game 3. He leads with the Mouse Hold, I go into my Staraptor, go for the close combat, take out that mouse right away. He then goes into his Salamence, intimidates my Staraptor, I'm not a fan of that, I switch into my Braviary. He goes for the Dragon Claw, does a huge chunk, goes for another, takes out my Braviary. I then switch into my Altaria, he goes for the Dragon Claw, does a huge chunk. I go for the Dragon Pulse, do a little bit, get my lefties back, but he's able to take me out with another Claw. I definitely could have played that better, but we go into our Flamingo with his Scarf on, go for the Brave Bird, take out the Dragon. He then goes into his Tinkatongue, starts breaking some mold. I decide to switch into my Oricorio. He goes for the Ice Hammer, does a huge chunk to me, lowers his speed. I go for the Revelation Dance, do a nice chunk right back, takes some Life Orb, goes for the Ice Hammer, misses. Oricorio is able to clean him up with another Revelation Dance. He then decides to switch into his Haxorus, goes for the Terra Dragon, starts dancing right in front of my face. Oricorio's like, nope, I'm gonna keep dancing with you, get boost just like him, go for the Air Slash, do a huge chunk, but I take myself out with my Life Orb. I decided to then go into my Flamigo, go for the Brave Bird, take out the Haxorus. He then switches into his Fortress. I go for another Brave Bird, do a nice chunk, take some recoil and some Rocky Helm damage. He decides to set up some Toxic Spikes. I'm like, whatever, gonna just keep Brave Bird and take some more recoil, goes for the Ice Spinner, takes out my Flamigo. I then decide to go into my Tropius, go for a substitute, he goes for the Ice Spinner, my sub breaks. I then go for another sub, he goes for an Ice Spinner. At this point, I'm just trying to activate my Lychee Berry. Go for another sub, get the berry, get the attack boost, he goes for another Ice Spinner. I then decide to go for the Earthquake and take out the Fortress. He then goes into his last Mon, the Dolphin. I go for the Leaf Blade, do a huge chunk, but he's able to hold on. He goes for the Body Slam, takes down my Tropius. I then go into my last Mon, the Staraptor, go for the Terra Normal, go for the Double Edge, take out the Donphan. Good game. And now let's get into the last one, Game 4. I start off with my Staraptor, he goes for a Sylveon, I go for the Brave Bird, do a huge chunk, he retaliates with a Hyper Voice, get down to 1, go for the Brave Bird, take him out, but I go down with him. I then decide to go into my Tropius, he goes into his Noivern, goes for the Flamethrower, does a huge chunk to my Tropius. I decide to set up a sub, eat my berry, get my attack boost. He then switches into his Magnezone, I go for the Leaf Blade, he resists that. He goes for the Terra Blast, I decide to go for a Dragon Dance, getting a little greedy over here. Get another Harvest, get another Lychee Berry, then go for the Earthquake, take him out to the Magnezone. He then decides to switch into his Colossal, I decide to go for another Earthquake, take him out, get another Harvest, get another Berry, and get another boost. He then goes into his Quagsire, I go for the Leaf Blade, do a huge chunk, but he's able to hang on. He goes for the Toxic, gives me the Poison, I eat another Berry, get another boost, go for another Leaf Blade, take out the Quagsire. He then switches into his Gengar, goes for the Sludge Bomb, cleans up Tropius. I then go into my Flamigo, he goes for the Terra Ghost, I go for the Throat Chop, do a huge chunk, but he's able to hang on and retaliate with the Sludge Bomb. I then go into my Oricorio, he switches into his Noivern, I go for the Revelation Dance, get a crit, one-shot the Noivern. He then goes back into his Gengar, whiffs the Focus Blast, go for a Revelation Dance, gets the W. Good game. And that's it. Let me know what you think about Larry's team down below and how you can improve it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for future content. Peace!